We're back. Oh, we're back, supposedly. Yay, we did it. We have done it. So yeah, basically I was just kind of belaboring the point that you want to just get out of this lane. And you can just tell the CM to stay here and get farm, or tell your Ricky or Ursa or somebody to come lane here instead. And like I said, I'd probably like you to rotate to the top lane and just kill this guy, because you're better than the sniper. But yeah, down here, this is just the thing that's going to happen. Like, this guy is just going to bully you guys. He has a Vanguard and a Bracer. You have 0 kill potential, which means that he has complete free reign in this bottom lane. And he's just going to be able to pressure you over and over and over. You don't want to really be tanking creeps. You don't have to. Timbersaw does. So yeah, get out of the lane, and that will drastically change how your game goes. Go ahead and skip to like the very end to see how you itemized. Yeah. Okay, so basically you guys got completely run over because your laning stage was terrible. By nature of the picks, not necessarily by the play, but yeah, you needed to get out of the lane. Okay, so next replay by A5M. Support Vengeful Spirit. I'm the Venge. The lanes went well and mid-game seemed to go well, but we couldn't close the game out. Not sure if there was much I could do in solo queue. I bought heaps of detection, etc. for bounty, but team just couldn't pull through. Thanks, I'm 3.6k MMR. All right. That can be very frustrating if you're playing against a bunch of invisible heroes, which you are. The Invoker and the Bounty Hunter. And heaps of detection, 17 sentries. I wouldn't even really consider that to be heaps of detection. Playing against the Bounty Hunter Invoker, I'm probably looking upwards of like 40 sentries. Especially in this long of a game. 17 sentries is not a lot of detection in a game like this. They don't want to rotate to your lane, then the game is fucked. Are you talking about the last game? Not necessarily. I mean, you could just go there. Like, there's a very good chance that they'll either just leave the lane because you're there, or you can just kill the sniper a bunch, or you can just like farm the jungle. You know, there's plenty of options, but staying in that lane was bad. Okay, so we've got a safe lane Viper and a Venge. That's a pretty nasty lane. Got a Zeus mid. You've got a Shaman and an Ursa. So you guys have very good lanes. All 3 of your lanes are pretty brutal for the other team to play against. Their lanes are pretty good. But I think you guys definitely have the advantage in the laning stage in all 3 lanes. So let's see. Preemptively placing a ward. I mean, that's fine. You're placing it to deward these and also detect the Bounty Hunter. I think that's a pretty good ward, actually, to place. That being said, I think that you should probably have opted to get a second sentry instead of these branches, because you are against a bounty in lane. So you're going to want 1 ward to deward the camp and 1 ward to place in the lane. So that's just one thing you could optimize your build with in this particular game. You send one out, and that's okay, but you are taking the courier away from your mid, which is a problem. To get that sentry, which you could just have anyway. As far as harassing this lane, it's going to be pretty tough to bully the Pango out, and especially once the bounty's involved. You just generally risk too much HP to trade with these heroes because you're pretty slow and your attack range is bad and your attack damage is pretty bad as well. So I think this is one of those lanes where you kind of just want to bide your time a little bit, because you're going to be really, really strong once Viper gets a few levels, and once you get a couple levels yourself. Because once you have a longer stun, once this guy has more Nether Toxin, then you can actually potentially threaten the Bounty Hunter and chase him down. I don't think you're probably ever going to kill the Pangolier unless he completely fucks up, but that's okay. But yeah, I basically spend most of my time kind of just like trying to trade with the Bounty Hunter primarily, and just allow my Viper to kind of do his thing, get some farm. I definitely wouldn't spend my mana on 2 magic missiles at level 1. Does 100 damage. Costs you have 2 magic missiles and then you're out of mana, and you didn't bring any mana regeneration to the lane. So using your mana right there, it's just not accomplishing much. I would probably save my and just in general, you want to get more than just doing a little bit of damage to somebody for your mana. It's not worth it just to spend your mana unless that is your purpose. Unless you are a Zeus or a Skywrath Mage support and your entire purpose is just to spend your mana and then suicide and then come back to the lane, or in Undying, for example. But you're a Vengeful Spirit, and it's not really that efficient to magic missile twice and then go suicide. You'd much rather get like 15 arcane bolts off instead. So I would just hold on to the magic missile to save my Viper if he gets gone on, or potentially set up for a kill after harassing with right clicks a bunch. And that's something that you'll see somebody like Owie, who's a really high level support player, do, is they'll spend the first like 3 minutes of the laning stage not using their mana at all and just right clicking people, just like setting up potential kills by right clicking over and over and over. And then once you have, gotten somebody into potential kill threat range and have gained a couple levels, that's when you can start using your mana to actually get kills. Okay, so you're getting a pull off, they're getting a pull off. It's just a solo Pangolier at this point. I would definitely be keeping an eye on my mid lane, and potentially if Zeus gets this low, I would almost consider even just coming over here preemptively. Or you could potentially even just at this point, yeah, I mean, I think that when you need to keep an eye as a support on the health of your other heroes and other lanes, just to see if there is an opportunity for you to help them out. I think with Zeus super low, you should be looking to potentially secure these runes, especially because your Viper, like, you really can't do very much in this lane of the Pangolier. And now that they've just completely abandoned the Pangolier, because he's not threatened by Viper, he's not threatened by you. That's why there's only one hero down here. Bounty Hunter is roaming around and finding kills, and I think that's when you should probably start to look to try and mirror the Bounty Hunter's movements, or force the Bounty Hunter to come somewhere else by going and maybe ganking the Invoker, ganking the top lane, because otherwise you're going to end up just kind of standing around in the bottom lane, not doing very much. All right, so we smoke. We're going to go for a kill on the mid lane, it looks like. You are level 3. Unfortunately, your Zeus has no mana, and that's a problem. I'm not sure if you didn't check his mana beforehand, but if you notice, he is down to 123 mana. And while he does have 2 bottle charges and a mango, this is pretty low for him to potentially get a kill. And because you don't have detection, you basically have like one tiny window to do enough damage to this Invoker. I think this is a pretty low percentage gank without dust, because you rely on the Zeus to reveal. So I can understand why this game would be pretty frustrating, just because you are having a hard time impacting any of the lanes. And that's okay. Sometimes that happens as a support. If you look at your heroes, you could potentially stack for Viper or Zeus. Both heroes do quite well with stacks. But I'd probably just generally start buying a bunch of detection, a bunch of mana regeneration, and then just kind of hanging out around the mid lane looking for kills and looking to stop stuff like this from happening. Like, that should be your job. So, I mean, that's a good, you come in, you get the kill. I would definitely be just taking these last hits right now. You're going to have to spend a lot of gold on detection in this game. So every time that you have an opportunity to get some gold, you should 100% take it. So right now, you know, place your wards, sure, but make sure that you're getting these last hits and denies, because that's like a whole nother century or two that you could buy if you had killed those. Other than that, I think that your wards are pretty good. This is good to have here for Viper if you're going to leave him alone. This ward is also fine, especially with the bounty hunter in lane. It's just a matter of, you know, where you should be and when you should be there. And I think that maybe coming down here it's okay. But again, you're against the Pangolier. You're probably not going to kill him no matter what you do. Looks like your Viper is going to die, unfortunately. But probably, I mean, that was going to happen regardless. Like, it happened while you were here. It's going to happen if you're not there. I think that you can still potentially look to maybe be punishing top lane or the mid lane still, and just letting your Viper do his thing until he has Atos. Once he has Atos, that's when you actually have kill potential on any hero. And you should be looking to try and play around that kind of power spike instead of just kind of like randomly rotating because you feel like you need to be doing stuff. But I do understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to be active. You're trying to accomplish stuff. And I think that's definitely good. You just need to pick your spots a little bit better. But this is a good gank. It's exactly what you want to see. And as a result, you force Pangolier to come to the mid lane, which frees up a bunch of farm for your Viper. So that's all good so far. Okay, so go ahead and skip about 30. Let's see, when did games kind of go south? Around the 34 minute mark. This makes a lot of sense that the graph would look like this. Their heroes are probably better at farming in the long run, especially with Midas on, you know, at least 2 of them probably. At least the Invoker gets a Midas, and they have Bounty Hunter as well. So that's pretty tough. I wouldn't expect you guys to have a gold lead that's that big based on your heroes and versus theirs. Let's do a quick item check, because that's always something really important to look at. So we have a medallion. We're going for Force Staff. Our Shaman has a Ghost Scepter and Arcane Boots. Viper has Greaves, Atos, Orchid. Guy has a Basher. Guy has an Ags. Tango has good items. This guy's okay. This guy's pretty farmed. This guy is pretty farmed, and this guy is also pretty farmed. So I think the Force is good. I think that you look at your team, you definitely lack saves other than just your swap. So the Force is definitely good. Glimmers also, it's okay. Not the best. I think one thing that you guys definitely do lack is auras. You got the Greaves, and that's about it. No Vlads, no Crimson, no Pipe. Pipe would be very good this game. Crimson is decent. Vlads would be super good. So that's definitely a problem. It looks like here's about when the game starts to go south. So you guys are pushing. Let's look at your player perspective. You guys are pushing the bottom lane together. And as soon as these guys get Invoker combo, this is going to be a bad fight right off. So, I mean, you can try your best. You guys end up killing the Jug, so that's okay. Pretty good, actually. So far, I'd consider that a fight win for you. Let's see if your team throws by staying around too long. Get another kill. Kind of like the last game that we just looked at, you guys are not very good at hitting towers. You guys are pretty shit at hitting towers, unless you kill their ult. So, you can see struggling to hit towers, taking a long time to kill this by not being contested. Again, Vlad's would kind of help with that. I think that you definitely need more sentries. You desperately need more sentries, in fact. Like, if I was playing support in this game, we'd have a sentry here, along with the ward. We'd have a sentry here. 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 We'd have sentries here, along with the ward. Like, you have 1, 2, 3 sentries. You need like 5. You need like 5 sentries. So your Viper just gets caught out because he's too far forward. You try to save him and die. And now your team is going to take a 3-on-5 fight on their shrine. And that is not going to go well. I'm just curious, why was this even happening? Okay, Viper is relatively low. Going for Jakiro. Team is kind of splitting up. It's kind of just like bad timing, to be honest, but at the same time, I don't really know why you guys are hanging out in this area unless you're waiting for them to come, and then all of you should be here to take this fight. This is a pretty dangerous area to hang out in, just kind of randomly. You're much better off hanging out in their jungle if you're going to hang out on their side of the map. At least then you're controlling the Roche area and you're taking away their jungle, but there's no tier 2, there's no tier 2 here. This is another objective that you could be going for. But if you're not going to go high ground, then this area is probably the most dangerous place to be, especially with their shrines still up. So hanging out here is definitely a mistake. Your Viper doesn't pay attention to the minimap, and he goes after Zeus has already left. And you being a good support, I guess, hanging out with him, trying to keep him alive, dying. And now your team is all dying as a result of Viper's mistake. But just generally, you know, that positioning doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay, so this is where the game's really going to start going south, I would imagine. You guys don't have Zeus, you don't have Viper. Just don't even be here. Just don't even be here. You guys don't have your 2 main D-push teamfight heroes. You should just completely concede this tier 2 tower. There's no point in defending it. Can't defend it, in fact. And you have no vision, so coming up here is really, really, really aggressive by you. And you're going to get punished for it, as we can see. But if you want to do anything right now, I would put up some preemptive wards because we're about to potentially take a fight for our high ground. So I would probably want to put a sentry over here, like in these trees. I'd probably put an observer ward, something like this, so you can see them trying to wrap around. And you could even potentially just run over here and place an observer ward here, because this is the area where the fight is going to take place in, and you want to preemptively get vision here so that you can, you know, not get picked off like this, or be able to target the right people at the right time. So this move coming up here and trying to de-push with your Wave of Terror, you know, it's like, it's just not going to do anything. As a result, you're probably going to get caught out. Your Shaman is getting caught out. Your Ursa is trying to save you guys. You're still taking a fight without the Zeus. Viper is kind of rushing to the fight. Now he's kind of out of position. And like, you are going to end up getting caught, because I'm not sure why you didn't just retreat away. You force step yourself out. Are you over there? You swap yourself? Okay, I mean, I don't know. I would just continue running. But yeah, defending this tier 2 tower is not going to do anything. This tower doesn't matter at 36 minutes into the game. Basically, I would think about towers in Dota in this way. Like, for the first 15 minutes or so, it's really important to have your tier 1s up. Probably up until like the first Roche, the mid tier 1 is really important to have up. I mean, potentially if you can keep the mid tier 1 up forever, like, that's fine. But once your tier 1s are down, you want to defend your tier 2s to a certain degree. You want to defend your tier 2s because they are hard to take. So if the enemy team is not that strong and they're pushing your tier 2 and you have the ability to wrap around on them from the shrine, then you can definitely go, take a fight and defend your tier 2. But tier 2s are really not that important of towers because they don't really extend your map control very far. They're kind of just like something that slows down people pushing into your high ground. That's about it. So let this tier 2 slow down their momentum by them having to kill it first. That's about all it does. It doesn't actually give you any more map control. Do you really care about controlling this tiny band of land that has no creeps to farm? Not a little bit. You don't really care about this at all. It doesn't give you access to any camps. Actually, none does it protect. So that is why tier 2s and defending tier 2s is usually a pretty big mistake that people make. I've seen so many people glyphing for tier 2s when teams are definitely pushing high ground. I've seen people defending and taking fights for their tier 2s when they don't have numbers like you guys just did, getting picked off and losing the game as a result. Like Viper just died. Now he has to buy back. They're just going high ground. You guys probably just lost the game by defending this tier 2. And you used the glyph on it. So, like all those things just happened. You defended a tier 2 that does nothing for you other than slow down the other team. You expended all of your resources in terms of your lives and glyph to defend the tier 2, and now you have nothing left to defend your tier 3. So why would you ever defend a tier 2? Shouldn't. Unless one person can defend it by themselves because you're way far ahead. I guess that's a good caveat to make. If you guys are very far ahead and you can defend a tier 2 without expending lots of resources, then do it. But most of the time, it's not worth it. To answer your question, Mabel, that's pretty much it. But yeah, I mean, so you guys lost the game by doing that. Like, as bad as that sounds, you're defending the tier 2 by yourself there. Lost you guys the game. It's not the entire game is on you, but in some sense it is because that move lost you guys the game. All right, we got Avi next. Zavi. Need some water. Mid Clinks. And he says, I was against a booster Smurf Tinker. I checked his profile. I want to know what I can do better. P.S. I'm happy I could hold my ground against a booster. Thank you. We lost pretty hard when he started to roam. All right. Definitely a booster. That's fortunate. Gonna look at how to lane against a booster. I mean, to be honest, we should just watch the booster play. Because we could probably learn quite a bit from that as to how to beat this Crusader level. Okay, so your items seem fine, considering you had to buy your own tangos. Kind of unfortunate. Maybe you even had to buy your own ward, who knows? This is a problem. And here's why. Go to the booster's perspective. He's gonna see a Clinks, walk up to the mid lane. Gonna see the Clinks, place a ward. And now you've just given him a free, like, quarter of a level of experience and 100 gold. See, he immediately queues up a sentry. He's going to deward. Pretty shortly. Anyway, let's go back to your player perspective. So, yeah, add a free Tango if he wants to use it for that. Definitely true. So in this matchup, I'm not super familiar with the Clinks against Tinker matchup. I don't play any mid, hardly. But I would imagine that, like most lanes, you have a big harass advantage with your Searing Arrows. Now, one of the main problems is that your wave is on his high ground, which means that you can't even harass correctly with your Searing Arrows. Because... why? Because you would miss uphill. So it's not going to be very efficient to trade uphill because of where the lane is. The next thing that I noticed is that you have this on autocast. That is also a problem because this skill allows you to right-click heroes and do damage to them and harass them in the creep wave. Because it does not proc creep aggro if you use this actively. So if you press W and you click on the Tinker with your W, you will attack the Tinker and these creeps will not aggro to you. However, because you have it on autocast, if you were to attack the Tinker, the creeps would aggro to you because you're doing a regular right click that then just has this applied to it. So in the laning stage, you should not have autocast on Searing Arrows. You should be manually using your Searing Arrows to hit. Right there, you use Strafe after you'd already been lasered, so none of your arrows hit him. So just be careful about that. I would also probably be looking to pick up a stick, and I would be looking to pick up a raindrops as quickly as possible, and I'd be looking to pick up some more HP regen as quickly as possible, because you can definitely win this lane, Tinker versus Clinks, if you have regen to sustain, because your Searing Arrows hits him for 30 and doesn't take any harass from the creeps, and it only costs 12 mana. Meanwhile, Tinker, all of his skills cost 80 to 130 mana. So you can definitely outlast him in terms of harassment and sustain if you were to actually have enough sustain in your inventory. And that's why having stuff like the raindrops, like the wand, like some extra tangos, and maybe even a salve is definitely really, really good. Up here, this is another thing that I want to mention. This is also a matchup where the creep advantage is going to be very important, because if you can push the creep wave into the Tinker, then two things are going to happen. Number one, he's going to have to tank the creeps under his tower, and that means that you can just harass him with Searing Arrows while he's tanking your creeps, and the tower will not aggro to you either. Number two, you could potentially force him to go March of the Machines earlier if he's having to de-push the wave. And that means that you will be able to force him to build less harass heavy, less damage heavy, and then be able to outtrade him even more. That makes sense? Hopefully it does. So he's definitely, he's basically saving his laser for every time that you start to focus on him. So he's obviously playing very well in that regard. You can see that, just one small thing, like you're a Crusader MMR, so generally everything that you do is going to be a little slower. I would definitely make sure that you're queuing up the stuff that you want to buy next by hitting Control Shift and shift queuing stuff into your quick buy. And you can change this up as much as you like. It doesn't have to just stay these Wraith bands. You should definitely be changing this up as you see fit. So, all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, I need some more regen. Maybe I should just queue up like 3 salves and some mangoes here. But you can see, because you didn't have enough regen, he's able to actually force you off the creep wave by keeping you so low, and now you're a level behind. And now this lane gets even harder because he does more damage than you, he has more stats than you, and once he gets, you know, rearm, then the lane's basically over because you don't really have the ability to out-harass him at that point. You bring yourself another salve. And then we just end up dying to the Tinker because we just don't have enough regen. And raindrops would be super good in this lane. And yeah, from there, the lane is impossible. Especially based on our itemization. And now, now 5 minutes in, we're still buying more regen. So here's the deal. You need to be buying your regen early. You need to be buying it within like the first couple of minutes. You need to be getting that regen so you can stay in the lane so you don't fall behind in levels, because then once you fall behind in levels, now you're behind in the ability to harass, and now you're still buying regen when he's buying stat items. And so suddenly this is definitely turning into a snowball for the Tinker, because you're still buying regen at 6 minutes in the game and he's working towards his boots of travel. And he's literally just kind of bodying you in this lane right now. And I mean, right there, you know, he preemptively buys a sentry to prepare for that trade, and he is, you know, kind of able to do whatever he wants at this point. So let's see, your TP's on cooldown, so now you have to walk back to the lane because you just died and TP'd back earlier. So now you're 2 levels behind him, and we're still working on our first item after our first Wraith Band. And you're a hero that really does not recover very well from anything, from being behind. So you have to win this lane very early on. And if you do not win the lane early on, then, I mean, to be honest, I think you just kind of have to like hit the creeps as much as possible and maybe jungle a little bit and just spend some time catching up, because you can't do anything. Your hero does nothing, basically. You're able to kill the Tinker with your ultimate, which is pretty amazing. But yeah, I'd probably just kind of leave the lane at this point, because Tinker is not a hero that pushes towers very quickly. He has to rely on the creeps to push the towers. So I would probably just spend all of my time hitting creeps in the jungle until the lane is here, and then I'd come farm the lane at my tower, and then I'd go back to hitting jungle creeps until my ultimate is up, and then I'd maybe look to either get a kill on the Tinker by asking somebody to come rotate, or I would go somewhere else and try to get a kill with my ult, and then I would rinse and repeat, and I'd probably pick up a Hand of Midas, and I'd probably pick up some farming tools, and then I would just go ahead and just try and farm. And then once I feel like I'm strong enough to kill the Tinker on my own, which probably means Orchid is at least necessary until he gets a Ghost Scepter, then you just hunt the Tinker for the rest of the game. Or you hunt the Morphling, you hunt the Drow. Orchid would definitely be really good this game. It's really good against all of your heroes, pretty much. So I think that's probably the route I go. I definitely would prefer getting treads over a 3rd Wraith Band. I don't think you need this 3rd Wraith Band. I think you desperately need boots, because your hero gets Skeleton Walk, which scales with movement speed. But yeah, going to look for kills is also fine. You know, I think that you're a hero that farms other heroes. You don't really farm creeps that well. But that's another reason that I think Midas is probably pretty core on Clinks at the moment. But going to get kills is fine. This is all good. You will go Shrine. But another thing that's really important on Clinks is that, well, he does farm heroes, and that is basically what he does. You do need to hit creeps. You do need to get some creeps, because if we look at this, you have 18 CS at 13 minutes into the game. That is really low, and you're bottom 3 net worth. So you have enough damage to kill heroes, but you also need other items. So don't be afraid. Don't just be running from one kill to the next. Don't be just running from one kill to the next. Especially now with when you have a Huskar, when you've got other heroes that you guys are pretty strong, you should be looking to kill towers, and you should potentially just let your team take fights while you get some farm in the jungle, while you split push the other lanes. Because if you can keep Tinker separated from his team by making him defend the lane that you are defending, then the rest of your team is going to be able to destroy them early game. So you should be basically trying to occupy this Tinker's time all the time. Make him defend a lane, run to another lane, make him defend that lane, or stay in the lane that you're already pushing. You know, just make this Tinker's life basically only about defending against you, because you're a Clinks and you take towers faster than basically any other hero in the game. And if you can do that, if you can make this Tinker, who's not only, as we established, a Smurf, but also their main source of team fight, then how do they team fight your team? You have a Huskar, you've got a Centaur, you've got a Tusk, and you've got a Pango. They have to have Tinker there if they're going to win a fight. Morphlene's not going to do shit. Lion is somehow level 10 with a Blink Dagger at 13 minutes, but he's still not going to do shit because he's a Lion with 940 HP. Their Drow is not going to do anything, and they have a Pudge. He's like one of the worst heroes in the entire game. And you've got a Huskar, you've got a Centaur, you've got a Tusk, Pangolier. All of your heroes are good at team fighting. So if you can draw the Tinker away from all of the team fights, there should be no reason for your team to lose the team fights. But I'm going to assume what happens is that you guys just continue to fight as 5 over and over and over. Meanwhile, Tinker just split pushes, and he creates a lot of space for his team, and then they're just going to eventually out-farm you. Alright, we're reconnected. Come on, man! What's going on, OBS? Why do you keep disconnecting on me? I don't know what the deal is, guys. Sorry for the disconnect. Brief one this time. Anyway, that's how I see this game playing out. That you guys just lose by them simply getting farm eventually because you don't end the game. Yeah, okay, so we're 35 minutes into this game and you guys have taken 1 tier 1 tower. That just means that you're not doing your job as Clinks. That's all that means to me. Also, your itemization, rushing, and nullifier, this doesn't make any sense. It should be Orchid, BKB. Those should be your first 2 items. Potentially Orchid Nullifier, but you have to have Orchid first. Going for a Nullifier first does nothing. Absolutely nothing. I understand you got it to deal with the E-Blade, but I'm sure you could have gotten Orchid before you got the Nullifier. But again, your net worth is so low that you probably didn't have any items before they had their items. Let's see how many. You have 51 last hits at 35 minutes. So yeah, you need to farm creeps more. You need to be split pushing more. And that's kind of the thing, is if you're split pushing more, you're getting all of the creeps on the way to the tower. And then Tinker shows up and pushes the lane back, and then your team takes a fight elsewhere. And then Tinker leaves to try and help his team, and you push some more creeps. And then you start hitting their tower, and then Tinker comes to defend that, and then your team wins another team fight because Tinker's not there. And then Tinker goes to defend the lane that your team's pushing, and then you take another tower. And all this time, you're getting creeps as you push towards the tower. And so you end up with, you know, a couple hundred last hits. And suddenly you have Nullifier, Orchid, BKB. And you're able to actually win fights when you show up. But right now, I mean, you've got 1300 HP. And if they dust you, you just immediately die. There's nothing you can do because you don't have any escape. You don't have any movement. You don't have any BKB. So you pretty much cannot team fight. And all you can really do is hit towers until you have those items. Like right there. You show up, you just get immediately E-bladed, and then you die. You don't have a BKB. So, yeah, just kind of like a fundamental misunderstanding of how this game needs to be played. And that's fine. Like, I think that Clinks is a very difficult hero to play because he doesn't have any farming mechanic. At least no cheap one. And he farms heroes, which you did a decent job of, but you also need to be farming towers because that's going to give your whole team a boost of gold, and it's also going to, as I said many times, distract the Tinker from just focusing on winning team fights for his team. Q probably can deflect E-Blade. I would imagine so. All right. Arctic Wolf, support, Shadow Shaman. Hey, I played Shadow Shaman and the start was going okay, then it just started to go downhill fast. That's like every one of these replays. Hey, I think things were going fine and then it just went downhill. I don't know what was going on and why it was bad. It's just a funny way that all of these descriptions seem to start out. Okay, so carries were dying and we just could not win a fight. I wanted to know if I could have done anything better. Felt the first 10 minutes went well, but after the point I felt like it could have done more. Just got lost and didn't know where the best move was for the team since we were losing a lot of fights. Okay, well, let's look at your lineups. You guys have a Pudge, you've got a Bounty Hunter. Wait. No, you guys have a pretty good team fighting lineup. Troll, Vadin, Invoker, Ursa, Shadow Shaman. They are very split pushy and not very good at fighting. So I am curious why the team fight's going poorly. So let's go find out. Let's go find out. All right, so let's see. We're playing position 5. Shaman, you've got an Ursa with no items. You went for Shackles first. I mean, you skilled it very early, but probably going to end up using it. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but remember, you always just want to make sure that you're holding your skill point until you basically until the fights start at the runes, and then you can decide what you need. Unsurprisingly, you guys died because your Ursa has terrible items. But that's okay. So in this lane, I think your focus is probably just going to be on what's it doing. If you can basically find the Pudge, you can potentially kill the Pudge, but you can be up here denying the Mirana because you have much higher base damage than everybody else. So I'm seeing you basically not throw any right clicks at all. You should be looking to body this Mirana. You should be looking to body this Pudge with your superior base damage, and you should be looking to deny these creeps. But for the first minute and 15 seconds of the lane, you basically spent it over here in these trees, kind of just standing around leeching experience. Basically, you need to think about if you are going to be taking experience from your carry, you need to be giving them something in return. And that should be in the form of either trading harass with the other team, or it should be in the form of helping you as a lane have a EXP advantage by denying or last hitting. Sometimes you got to secure last hit because your carry is going to miss a range creep or something like that. But just standing around for the first minute and a half is actually like an incredibly common mistake that supports will make, because they feel like I need to get to level 2 before I can actually do something, or I need to get to level 3 before I need to do something. Well, do something with your time instead of just waiting for level 2 or 3 to come along. Okay, so you end up trading, your Ursa dies because, again, your Ursa has awful items, and this guy's kind of intentionally ruining the game by going those, so it's sort of unfortunate that that is the lane that you have to deal with, but I do think that going over here and pulling is the correct move. Go ahead and get that pull off. Good move. Last hits. Single pulling here is not my favorite. Again, you could always pull through to this camp. I'd be looking to pull through every time if possible. But you can see now you're sending a double wave into the other team, which means that they're getting more experience than they should in this lane. And they're getting the creep equilibrium in a place that they want it to be. So we're going to go for another pull here. Found Marana, that's good. Mango, you get the kill, perfect. So you can see what the effect pulling has on this lane. Makes somebody come over to contest, and as a result, you get a kill because they're contesting. Again, you're going to single pull this because you're not pulling it over to this creep camp. So now you're sending an additional creep into them. Going to push the wave yet again. You have to pull again. So, you know, it's fine. At least you're pulling at a time where this camp is always respawning. But you're going to have to continue to pull, and you're still going to be pushing this wave and forcing your troll to play up farther than he would like to get this next creep wave every time, because you're pushing the wave by allowing extra creeps to show up there. So you really need to be doing this pull through. Again, we're just farming these creeps, and we're going to send a massive double wave time. And you can see Troll probably got hooked under tower because he was playing up here. That doesn't happen if the wave is back here because you're doing a double pull. And so in some sense, that death is on you because you're forcing your Troll to play up here by not controlling the creep wave equilibrium correctly. Okay, so let's see. Right here is when things go really badly. So let's go to about 18 minutes and see what happens. Say 17 minutes. Got Tranquils. We're working on our Aether Lens. So I think on Shaman, I would prefer to just see a Brown Boots Windlace as your inventory, because we showed this in one of our recent videos, that if you have Brown Boots and Windlace, you end up with about the same movement speed as Tranquil Boots when they're unbroken, and more movement speed when Tranquil Boots is broken. So it's right now, you would actually have more movement speed if you just had Brown Boots and Windlace. Or rather, I would say Arcane Boots and Windlace. That would be even better. And you definitely want Tranquils, and you definitely want Aether Lens, but you want your item progression to go Arcane Boots, Windlace, support stuff, then eventually you get your Aether Lens. And you probably buy your Void Stone at some point, and then once you have enough gold, then you disassemble your Arcane Boots to finish off the Aether Lens, and then you complete the Tranquil Boots again. So that's just the first thing I wanted to say. As far as your team, I mean, this is classic. You've got 4 people farming the same 2 camps. To be perfectly honest, I would probably just go to this other side of the map, because unless you're planning to push with wards, which you don't have for 30 seconds, unless you're planning to push at all, which you shouldn't be doing because you don't have any vision on their shrine and you don't have any wards in your inventory, and you're playing against a BH, so you need sentries and wards to be able to do this push. If you don't have any of that, then you should just be on the other side of the map farming, because you don't want to play with 5 heroes unless you're actually accomplishing an objective. So you are going for an objective, but you can see that their heroes are all around you and you can't see them because you don't have any detection. So now you're taking a fight with them getting the jump on you, and you're going to drop your wards not in front of a tower, which means that you're not going to be doing any tower damage. And as a result, your whole team's going to die because you don't have any sentries, you don't have any dust, and everything goes bad from there. So not surprising. I mean, I'm not going to lie, if you are playing against a bounty hunter and a Marana and you don't have dust and sentries all the time as a support, then you are responsible for losing the game. Simple as that. So you do have them now. That's good. But you can see that they are 14k ahead at this point. And that is because you've been losing fights to a bounty hunter. They're out farming you, and they have better map control and vision control because they have invisibility. And presumably, you're having a very hard time getting out and warding stuff aggressively because they are just all over the place and invisible all the time. So that's the main problem there. Didn't have detection, didn't have sentries. You need to buy a lot more sentries. Let's look at your sentry count at the end of the game. 21 sentries. This should literally be like 50 in this game. And I'm not exaggerating. It should actually be about 50 sentries that you've bought. Yeah, no Jenkins. He forgot that we were doing a replay review today, so I'm doing it by myself. Alright, Juyori. Carry, Faceless Void. Ved, way harder than any carry player has the right to, and probably itemized very badly. Took bad fights. Was forced to lock way earlier than I wanted to, and had a bad hero for the match. And last hit very poorly. It was already really hard to split my focus between Timber, Necrophos, and Lane, as I felt I had to either kill or harass them to get last hits because their burst was so high. But it also felt like I had to just focus one down specifically, as they would regen otherwise. But I didn't do that. I also could have probably done my own pulls and stacks, plus I'm sure I missed rotations after I got ultimate because I was feeling too pressured and wasn't thinking calmly. Yikes, dude. That's a lot of things that you have already figured out about this replay. But yeah, we'll take a look at it. How do I feel about Clinks in this meta? Not sure. He's good at fighting. He's good at farming heroes. So that's good. But you definitely need to go some sort of farming item on him, whether it's like Midas or a Maelstrom. I still think that the Maelstrom build on Clinks is potentially a thing because it allows you to just strafe entire creep wave. And also because it gives you a big damage output early. Why did he forget? Because he moved back to Canada yesterday and he had a very long day of travel, probably. He also might have missed our communication. I said that I wasn't going to play a review yesterday. Wasn't going to be there. Anyway. So you definitely are going to want to get stick as early as possible. I think potentially one thing that you could do is not buy these two branches and just start the lane with a Quelling Blade or start the lane with a stick. Either one of those is probably acceptable. Quelling Blade probably better, just so you can ensure that you get your last hits even though you have higher base damage anyway. But yeah, probably trading the two Iron Branches or starting the lane with Quelling Blade is better. You're definitely going to want a wand in the game regardless, but okay. Also, I don't think that you needed to go time lock level 1. I think I'd prefer to have time walk instead of lock. The trading in this lane is not really that important, and you can do your trading by walking up to them and punching them a bunch, and then time walking away. The time walk actually allows you to take better trades than time lock does, because only 10% of the time are you going to take a favorable trade with time lock. But 100% of the time will you take a favorable trade with time walk, because you can hit them twice or 3 times, and then you can time walk all of their damage off. So you're always going to have a better trade when you take time walk, and 10% of the time you're going to have a better trade when you have time lock. So that would be the first thing that I would say. As far as harassing them down, I'd say, yes, you have potential to maybe kill them in the early levels, maybe level 1 and 2. But once they get to like level 3, you should basically just be focusing on last hits. And I mean, you should still probably just be focusing on last hits anyway, just because if we look at their heroes, you win the game if you're the most farmed hero in this game. Period. None of their heroes deals very well with Void, unless they can get on top of you with like a Smoke Gank or a Blink Dagger into a Reaper Scythe. Like Blink Slardar, bashing you down, Reaper Scything you. That's pretty much the only way that you could die in this game if you are the most farmed hero in the game. And that means that your focus should be solely on becoming the most farmed hero in the game. And nothing else. Because that's the way that I look at it. If you are clearly the best hero in the game and will win 100% of the time if you are the most farmed hero in the game, then you should do nothing but focus on that. And if that means going to late game, so be it. Go to late game. Trading here, this is super, super, super unimportant. And it's actually really bad for you because you missed like 3 last hits, which could have gotten you closer to your wand earlier. So, yeah. Again, trading, hitting this guy is completely irrelevant. Just focus on last hits here. Let your Dazzle feed if he wants to. You know, he's playing super aggressively. It's forcing you to want to play aggressively. It's really bad. He's feeding them kills. He's playing this lane completely incorrectly because you're playing against 2 heroes that really cannot be harassed out of lane, and Dazzle's still trying to harass them out of lane. Right there, I would definitely time walk off that damage. Your regen is incredibly important in this lane because as soon as you run out of regen, you are in danger of dying. Right there. I don't know why you weren't time walking. It was off of cooldown. The death was avoidable. That's okay. I guess you're just feeling pressured. Again, time walking aggressively, it just doesn't make sense. Basically, this entire lane, you just have a... I mean, kind of an incorrect idea of how this game should be played. Because, I mean, we're in a meta where it's like you're supposed to fight for the creep waves. You're supposed to fight for the creep waves. But if you notice, like, I mean, you've kind of been fighting for the creep waves, but you've got 21 CS. You have the most CS in the game. So you don't really need to bully them off the creep waves when the creeps are here. Waves pushing into you. Another thing to note is that with Timbersaw and Necrophos, both of them seem to be those types of heroes that constantly push the creep wave into you. So you almost don't even really need to worry about the creep wave equilibrium because chances are the creeps are always going to be pushing into you, which means that you should basically just be able to farm under your tower for the entire laning stage. And that's great if you're in the position that you're in this game, which is that all you want to do for the entire game is farm. Okay, so we're just going to kind of speed through this because, you know, I think that's the most important point so far that I've seen is that this lane does not need to be played so aggressively. You should definitely just be focusing on last hits. Let your Dazzle feed. Just let him feed over and over and over. You don't care. You do not care if this Dazzle feeds. He's going to ping you. You're just going to mute him. You're just going to continue to farm. Going to continue to farm. I would probably send myself out a salve because you, like you said, you do have quite a bit of regen problems in this lane, and they have very good heroes to harass you down, and they have good burst. But still, you're the most farmed hero in the game. You've got a kill at the very least. You're staying in lane at super low HP. I don't know why. The shrine is up. I don't know why you're still here. You're just tempting fate. Like, why, dude? Just go heal. Just go heal, man. All right. Both of those deaths were 100% avoidable. Yeah, and actually Bradley Dragon does raise a relatively good point, which is that your W also could have been pretty good in that lane. I almost think that you just get like 1 level in time lock to trade at the very beginning of the laning phase, and then you just go time walk and maybe even time dilation. But you're eventually going to want to finish out your time lock anyway. So you probably go 4 in this, 1 in this, and then 4 in this. Maybe 2 in time dilation if you were able to get kills. As far as your itemization goes, I don't understand the Vanguard. I don't think that it really stops much of the damage that they do. You've got a lot of magic damage from Mars, a lot of magic damage from the Necro, a lot of pure damage from Timber, presumably a Radiance from this guy. Blardar is the only physical damage, and he's got minus armor, so Vanguard isn't really that useful in this game. If you want to get something to tank up, I would highly recommend going for, if you're going to go Midas, then I would probably go right into a Manta style or a Lincoln Sphere. I think probably a Manta. I think you go, let's see, what do you go? You go Treads, Wand. Also, why don't you have Treads at this point? I don't know why you don't have Treads at this point. Treads, I suppose a Wraithband is fine, but Treads, Wraithband, Wand, Manta, or sorry, Midas, Manta, and then probably like Diffusal Blade and a Silver Edge and a Lincoln Sphere and a BKB maybe. Maybe you don't need the BKB, but you probably do. Probably BKB to deal with the Lifestealer's Radiance. But yeah, that's probably your item build. I don't know what the Vanguard does. Be curious to hear what your opinion was on why you bought it. Now, having Manta to dispel the corrosive haze would have been really nice. Manta style to do extra damage in the chrono would be really nice as well. Fight that all you fight all of that, you are winning fights here, so that was good. Then you just die to the Lifestealer for no reason. I don't know why you died to the Lifestealer there. Lifestealer should never kill you this game. Alright, so we get our Diffusal, and then we're going for Manta, I guess. I don't know, I just think your whole item build is like really strange. I don't know if you're just trying to do something like off meta for the sake of being off meta or what, but you know, there's a reason that certain progressions exist and they solve various problems at the various stages of the game, and you seem to be kind of like, man, I don't know, how are you dying here again? You have Time Walk off of cooldown. No, you don't. You Time Walked very aggressively. Why did you Time Walk there? Go up, you hit. Take a small amount of damage, and then you use your Time Walk into the Lifestealer, and then die. Yeah, so, I mean, to be honest, I think that your itemization is a big issue. Like, this is, you know, this itemization says that you basically just want to split push, and I didn't see you split pushing at all. And then as far as use of Time Walk, other than Timbersaw, like, you basically don't need gap close. You should just be walking up and hitting people, and then time walking off the damage. Using it into another hero is basically the only way that you die. And so you kind of just got yourself killed like 3 or 4 times from what I saw, completely unnecessarily. As you can see, you're 3, 9, and 8. You just don't have any damage. You don't have any real way to win this game, because you are the hero that needs to be the most farmed hero, and you're not. Give me 1 second, guys. I need We are back. We are back. Okay, so this is from Turtle, and he says, 4K, carry animage. Not sure when to try and use my spells in fights or which items I'm going to need to be useful in a fight. I just want more clearly understand power spikes and when to actually decide to fight as a carry. Also, when should I leave my lane versus Doom? We played this game together, man. I already gave you a bunch of feedback during the game. That's okay. All right, let's see. Anti-mage. Grabbing the rune. If I remember correctly from this game, you did not have enough regen for the lane. I believe you ran out of regen very quickly. Let's see. You're mostly asking about team fights and when to fight versus a carry, or as a carry. So let's go ahead and just kind of like skip through the laning stage. About 5 minutes. So things are going well. Doom is level 5. You are at full HP. So you don't really need to be that scared of Doom. Once he hits level 6, you kind of need to just like... I mean, to be honest, you don't even really need to be that scared. You've got Counterspell, and Doom's cast animation is like omega long. So I probably would just kind of hang out in this lane and farm until maybe Necro disappears from the lane or something like that. Okay, so you end up going top and pick up treads, and now you're farming up here. Fine, you're an anti-mage. Should be totally fine farming up here. It's all good. Still all good. Farm, farm, farm. Looking at the mini-map. All right, making a rotation in the mid lane. That's good. Pudge can't really do anything to stop you. I'd probably just bully this Pudge out of the lane. Like, he's level 5. You're level 9. Farming, farming, farming. Doing anti-mage things, leaving the lane. It all seems fine so far. Getting to the bottom lane, getting more farm. Coming back, getting more farm. And they don't really have any way to kill you, to be honest, in this game. Other than a Doom, which we've already established should be pretty easy for you to avoid. So we're just going to continue to farm and continue to farm, continue to farm, continue to farm. Have our Battle Fury. We're making our way to the top lane, trying to play opposite of where our team is. That's what we should be doing. Going to hit creeps. Good. Going up to a fight. I don't like that. We still just have treads and a Battle Fury. I think that you should just be up here, like, pressuring this Juggernaut. I mean, again, like, what does the Jug do? How does Jug can't kill you? You're higher level than Jug. You should just go hit the Juggernaut, force him out of lane. Because right now, like, you have the opportunity to deny this guy farm. There's no reason for him to be able to farm. I think showing up to a fight right now, when Doom is super strong, when they have Warlock ulti, presumably they've got Necrophos ulti. I don't know. You guys this is not a very strong team fighting team. Going up here is just a waste of your time and potentially puts you in danger. So just kind of like wasted the last 45 seconds or so. And the only reason I put it like that is because you're an anti-mage, and anti-mage wasted time on anti-mage is like extremely important. The whole purpose of your hero is just to out-efficiency people in the first 35 minutes or so. So, I mean, I do like that you're playing up in their jungle. I think you could still be playing more aggressively because remember, if we look at player perspective, the only way that you die in this game is for somebody to pop your Lincoln Sphere, or for somebody to basically doom you out of the fog, or for you to get hooked and then dismembered and then doomed. Like, there's basically no way for you to die in this game, and that means that you should be playing recklessly aggressively. You should be like in between their tier 2 and tier 3 tower, cutting waves, like up here, just cut waves, make their team have to respond to you, because farming this right now when they have absolutely no way to kill you it just doesn't make any sense. This is all farm that is completely irrelevant. You're creating no map pressure, and your team is just playing 4-on-5. Well, you could be pressuring all of their lanes. So you could literally push this lane all the way in, take this tower, cut this creep wave, go over here, cut this creep wave, go over here, cut this creep wave. Suddenly you're pressuring all 3 lanes. They have to come back and defend, and your team can take the other towers or go Roche or take fights. Like, you have a pickoff team. You've got a Bloodseeker, Clinks, and Lion. So you want to make them split up to deal with your pressure, because that is going to allow your pickoff team to do a lot of work, because that's what they want to do. They want to find 1 or 2 heroes alone and kill them, and then that's how you win the game. So pick up the Manta style, continue to farm. Still farming too safely, I would say. Still farming too safely. We're going to take Roche. See what you do once you get the Roche. Tower. Good. I mean, again, I think that you're still playing like too safely. You've got Aegis. You should be cutting this wave. You should be cutting this wave. Like, just really play recklessly in this game. They have no way to punish. You know, your team's taking this tower. Another thing to think about is, like, does your team need help taking towers? No, you have a Leshrac and a Clinks. Like, you don't need to help them hit towers. You should be hitting the other towers. You should be constantly forcing this team, which has pretty good team fight between the Warlock ult, the Necro ult, the Jug ult, Pudge's Dismember, the Doom. You should be forcing them to split up all the time. They should never be able to take a 5-on-5 fight. I mean, you can see you just got hooked and you're still fine because they can't kill you. So yeah, again, we're taking very safe farm. We have the Aegis. We could be down here pushing in this lane. We could be pushing in this lane. We could be pushing in this lane. As far as counterspell, I mean, you basically have 2 things to look out for. You got to look out for Scythe, and you have to look out for Doom. Doom probably being the most important one to look out for. So I basically just not press counterspell until you see Doom, and then once you see Doom, if it looks like he's going to start casting Doom, or you think it's a good opportunity for him to cast Doom, then you just press counterspell. Otherwise, you just you know, hit people pretty much. So okay, this game is over. I remember it being very easy. We won. Good job. All right. Justin Ash has given us another replay because the other one didn't work. Thank you, Justin, for doing that. Bane support. I play as Bane, which fed so much in the laning stage and in team fights as well. I tend to misposition myself in team fight, and my escape item or late to the point where I can't finish them. What should I do if I'm facing a hard game like this? Welcome any criticism. All right. Ooh, 0-14. That is a tough game as a support. Tough game as a support. Thank you, as always, to all of our patrons who submitted replays and continue to support Dota Alchemy. It really does mean a lot to us. If you are watching and you're not a patron and you want your replays reviewed, please feel free to check out the link in the description below, which has the link to our Patreon, where you can potentially be a part of replay review next week. All right, so Bane, go for 6 tangos, 2 clarities, and a magic stick. I'm not sure why you're going for the magic stick, just because you can get that from the side shop in lane. 200 gold could probably be better spent buying something like a sentry to deward your camp if they were to block it, especially against a Beastmaster. You're going to be wanting to find his hawks, so a couple sentries perhaps. Maybe even just saving a little gold and getting early boots, because if you and Morana can roam around together and you have fast movement speed to catch people, then you can get a ton of kills. So I don't think that going for the stick makes a whole lot of sense, especially considering they don't really have that spammy of heroes. None of your heroes are going to be constantly giving you stick charges, so starting with that, kind of just wasting 200 gold. Right, so we take both runes, and then we end up running kind of an unfortunate way, but you're still fine because you're Bane and you're very tanky. You got a bunch of tangos, so it's not the biggest deal in the world. As far as this laning stage, I'd probably just be looking to kill the lion over and over. I don't think that going for the beast makes a whole lot of sense, because here's the deal. So if you go for the lion, it's basically a guaranteed kill unless Beastmaster wakes him up. And if Beastmaster doesn't wake up lion, or if Beastmaster does wake up lion, then you're setting up on the Beastmaster, who's the hero that you'd prefer to kill anyway, because he's the core, right? So I would probably always just go for the sleep play on lion, because it's going to set you up to either kill the lion for free or kill the Beastmaster if he tries to save the lion. You also do need to be a little careful in this lane, just because Beast is likely going to have boars, and boars can wake him up or wake up the lion. So you're going to need to pay attention to the boar cooldown. And anytime he summons the boar, do not go for a arrow into nightmare play. Okay, so you do get a pull off, and looks like we're going to go for the pull through. Unfortunately, it is contested. I don't know if I love the pull here, first and foremost, just because the creep wave was already at a spot where it's pushing into your tower. So the Terrorblade can already farm safely. And the fact that you have a Bane Morana combo just means that you guys should be looking for these kills. Like, you should be basically trying to kill these boars and then look for a kill with arrow and sleep as many times as possible in the laning stage. Pulling is never bad, especially when you have 3 heroes, because you want to get extra experience so you don't fall behind in levels. But if you have such an incredibly good kill combo, you can probably just look for kills and let your Terrorblade free farm, and by occupying all of their time, you're going to allow your Terrorblade to just have a perfect lane. So I think that this is a little bit too defensive, considering that the heroes that you have are 2 of the more aggressive heroes in the game when put together. I mean, sure, Beast can have 100% uptime on the boar if you don't kill the boar, but that's why you kill the boar. You just, anytime he summons a boar, you just kill the boar, and then he doesn't have a boar for like 40 seconds. So that death seemed like it could have been completely avoided. Like there's a full creep wave here. You're just running in. Positioning is very unfortunate. You're just tanking a bunch of damage that didn't need to happen. Still gonna go okay because you're gonna get a kill on the lion, but you guys shouldn't really be dying in this lane, and your Terrorblade should just be free farming the whole time. Because you and Mirana should just be setting up to try and kill the lion and the beast over and over. So pulling again. Looks like it's just going to be a single pull this time. Okay, so now we're pushing extra creeps into the Beastmaster. A little bit mistimed on the arrow combo there. Suppose if you want to push the tower, you certainly can. You guys are being very aggressive. And now you're kind of roaming around, not sure what to do. I guess you're setting up for the runes. You end up getting one. I think that this is a very good opportunity to get a kill. Like you see the Beastmaster over here last hitting under tower. You know that the lion is probably going to come contest this rune. You should probably just be helping to secure this rune, because if the lion comes over, you just kill him. You've got arrow and sleep combo. And this rune is going to be uncontested because you see the Beastmaster here, and you guys are both standing here, so the lion has no way to get this rune. So just another small thing that you could have done to win the lane a little bit harder. Alright, so we're pulling again. This is fine based on where the lane positioning is. Just make sure that we get our pull through this time. Looks like we should make it. Oh no. So on that pull through, it's very important. You did it at the correct time, so I commend you for that. But it's very important that you don't just run the creeps as far as you can. You want to run them towards your creep wave. So you need to be walking towards the creep wave over here, and you should even go as far as to walk over here and brain sap this, because as soon as this creep dies, your creeps will de-aggro and they will start walking back to the lane, which means that you need to catch them right about here. Otherwise, they're going to be too far gone for these creeps to aggro them. So you want to walk over here, pull these creeps to like about here, brain sap this, or just right click it if it's low enough. I think you could probably just right click it if you had walked over here and it would die. Then this guy would attack you because you're close enough to him, and then your creeps would aggro onto this camp and they would follow this camp back here. But because you just walked up as far as possible, these creeps were never close enough to attack you, and you didn't finish off this creep in time, which basically meant that this is going to be another single pull and more experience to the Beastmaster. Also, I would just be yelling at my Mirana. I'd be like, dude, come top. Let's go arrow. Let's kill people. What are you doing in the mid lane? We have Bane Mirana. We should be killing this lion every single time he shows in lane. And just in general, you guys have pulled off the arrow combo one time, I think. And honestly, it's for lack of trying, because you guys basically attempted to do the arrow combo twice in the first 6 minutes of the game. And that is just, you know, it's not enough. You guys have a killing lane and you didn't really try to get kills with it. So that's part of why your game was hard, is because you drafted two supports that work very well in a killing lane together. You ran them in the lane together, which meant that you were tri-laning and your Terrorblade got less experience than you would have otherwise. And then you didn't actually get kills because you didn't try to get kills. Your pulling those is fine. I think the pulling part of the laning stage is good. Connecting the pulls is definitely hard, especially when you have people contesting you. Okay, not sure what your Mirana is doing. You just get caught out and go down again. The Bracer, I think, is pretty nice. However, I think I would probably prefer if you had prioritized going for boots first, because, again, you're a hero that sets up for your team, and that means that you need to be ahead, sleeping people to set up for your team. And you're already a pretty fast hero, so boots is extra valuable on you because it makes you faster than it makes most heroes. So boots first. I do like the thought behind the Bracer. I think it is a correct game to go for a couple Bracers as a support because they have so much magic damage. But I do think that you need the mobility of your boots first, and I would probably in this game just go for Arcanes into Tranquils, get a couple Bracers and a Wand, and those would be my items, and the rest of the game would just be pretty much warding smokes. And then if I can down the line, probably Glimmer Cape. And that's about all you should ever buy on Bane in this game. Okay, so what else were your notes? Position and team fights. So let's go ahead and see if we can find a team fight. Oh, and here's another thing. This spell, Enfeeble, 23 minutes in, not having Enfeeble is just a huge waste because Enfeeble might be one of the most broken spells in the entire game. This spell makes your Fiend's Grip last for like 12 seconds. It makes your sleep last for like 10 seconds. Makes your brains, it makes your arrow last for like 8 seconds. Gonna make Boat stun. Gonna make Shackle Shot last longer. This spell is so incredibly good. You have to get Enfeeble. I think you only really need to go 1 point in sleep. And then you need to go a bunch of points in Enfeeble. So not having Enfeeble is a big mistake. Also, as we talked about in one of the other replays, you should definitely just have a Windlace. Like, prioritize getting a Windlace because it just gives you so much movement speed. It basically gives you the equivalent of Tranquil Boots all the time without finishing Tranquil Boots. Again, like if you had Enfeeble, this is going to be really funny. If you had Enfeeble here, this guy would be getting gripped until he dies. But because you don't have Enfeeble, you still get a full Fiend's Grip off, but he's going to live. And his team's going to come kill you all. So watch that again. This guy gets roared. You grip. This is fine. You could actually... Here. If we think about this a little bit better. Your Mirana gets roared. Your first move should be to sleep the Mirana. If he wants to attack it with his boars, so be it. Well, now one of the boars is slept and Mirana's unslept. Maybe Beastmaster sleeps himself. But definitely sleep the Mirana first. And then you can either unsleep him immediately afterwards and then Fiend's Grip, or you can just sleep your Mirana and then Fiend's Grip this guy. But you probably could have saved Mirana there if you slept him. And then, of course, the Enfeeble, not making your Fiend's Grip last long enough. You guys end up dying. Your Wind Ranger isn't there. I think that the placement of the fight is okay. You guys are around a tower. Your Mirana gets caught out. But generally speaking, the team fights should be just like Terrorblade walks down to a tower. The other team has to engage into the Terrorblade, and then you counter-initiate behind that. But that death wasn't that bad because it wasn't necessarily your fault. Okay, so we're back in the bottom lane. We get a couple of kills. Our Terrorblade is not playing with us, so we're not getting towers here. Terrorblade dies to anti-mage stop. That's unfortunate. We get the grip off on the anti-mage. That is nice, but at the same time, you need to make a judgment call. Is this fight going to be winnable? My guess is no, because you're right outside of their base and you don't have your Terrorblade, and you guys have relatively low mana and HP on a number of your heroes. So I probably wouldn't even take this fight. Right here, anti-mage blinks in. Again, this guy gets roared. You might as well Nightmare him. It would save his life. Or you can Nightmare the anti-mage. But probably Nightmare this guy, Enfeeble anti-mage, and then Fiend's Grip the anti-mage should be your move. However, you don't have enough mana to do all of those things, which means you probably shouldn't be taking a fight anyway. because you don't have the resources and you don't have your tower pusher. Pushing high ground 4-on-5 or 4-on-4 without Terrorblade doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the first place. All right, let's go look for a couple more team fights. You evaporated. Itemization wise, I definitely think that, I mean, it's hard because you don't really have that many opportunities to farm. I'm sure you probably have missed some opportunities to farm. Sometimes in games as a support, you almost need to prioritize just getting one item at specific points. For you, I think a Glimmer Cape would be a massive help both to you and to the rest of your team. I also think that having an Aether Lens would be super good. But of course, I don't know why you have a Null, actually. That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, having a Glimmer Cape and an Aether Lens in this game would be massive for saving your team, for getting off Fiend's Grips and that kind of stuff. So let's see. You guys are here. You are Moonlight Shadowed. Your Kunkka is pretty damn strong. You arrow the Anti-Mage. Ooh, yeah. Okay, you arrow the Anti-Mage. How does this fight go so poorly? You guys arrow the Anti-Mage and you're all there. Okay. Number one, I would run up and I would immediately enfeeble this guy. Okay, so he gets glimmered. So you need to sentry first and foremost. You need to sentry like right here and not get this close. You should be staying back here because it's really important for you to get off your spells. Maybe staying in this little nook over here. As a support, it's super important that you figure out where you can have the most impact from with your spells without being in danger. I think for you, that's actually hiding in this little tree space over here. You'd still be able to cast Fiend's Grip from there. You'd still be able to cast all of your spells, I believe. Running up right here just immediately shows them where you are, and you can see Grimstroke. He goes ahead and soulbinds you right off the bat, which could have been avoided by positioning yourself better. Also, as I said, you need to put a sentry. You did put it. It was a little bit late. The sentry into Enfeeble and then Fiend's Grip on Anti-Mage would have been the play. But if you're over here, you could just sentry right here. It would still get the Anti-Mage. You could still Enfeeble from this little tree area, and you could Fiend's Grip him from there as well, and then force the other team to have to overextend just to come combat you, and then they're fighting into high ground, into a Terrorblade with BKB and meta up, and that fight could have gone a lot better. But anyway, you're dead, so you can't really do much more in this fight. You're still probably going to win it, although this guy does have an Aegis, so maybe not. But yeah, you should still win this fight. Okay, so your Terrorblade just walks up and feeds, and then you lose the game because of that. Would Aether Lens be a good item to rush on Bane? Yes, I think that Aether Lens is 100% core on Bane, and it is probably the only item that you should absolutely buy every game on this hero. And rushing it is certainly acceptable, especially against a team that has an Anti-Mage and an Ember Spirit, where being able to initiate on them is really, really important. All right, guys, so that's it for replay review. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry, I'm not going to have any time to take replays from chat today because I'm alone. My voice is getting very tired, and I have to go to bed in just an hour or two here because I have to get up super early tomorrow. But thank you, as always, for tuning in, and thank you for your questions in chat. Thank you for your support on Patreon. Thank you for the replays, of course, and thank you. Special shout-out to John Callahan for putting together our replay review tracking spreadsheet and being incredibly useful as a mod on our Discord. Shout-out to you for that. So we will see you next week, and I will promise to bring you Jenkins next time. And if he doesn't show up, then we can all flame him relentlessly for the rest of time. So see you later.